Less than a month and a half in since President Trump became the 45th president. And every criminal force on the planet is basically working against Trump and the American people. It is simply staggering. A few days ago, I thought of this, and I remember driving to work in the car thinking, when I get there, I need to tell my writers and researchers to Google, to search engine, Hillary Clinton with Putin, John McCain with Putin, Chucky Schumer with Putin. And I didn't write down the note, and I didn't do it. And that was even before this latest session things began. It was like the day before. But I knew they just kept hyping and hyping and hyping that Flynn had met with the Russians over the phone and that Trump was going to meet with the Russians, and you just don't do that. I was thinking how important it was to show these people saying this and doing this against Trump meeting with the Russians. And then I thought I should show Ronald Reagan meeting with Gorbachev, Ronald Reagan meeting with other Russian leaders. I should show George Herbert Walker Bush with Boris Yeltsin. I should show George W. Bush with Putin. But then I thought, no, let's go further. Let's have the leading Democratic leaders, like Schumer, meeting with the Russians. And sure enough, look at drudgereport.com today. I never told the crew to do it. But the great part about the internet is somebody else thought of the same thing. Pure common sense. Schumer and the Russians. There's Schumer with old Vlad. But that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, Russia's trying to reform itself, trying to work with the West, inviting in business, fighting radical Islam, promoting Christianity. Of course, Hollywood and the globalists here are doing the opposite. We talked about Disney putting out on their TV network an image of a bunch of boys kissing boys, girls kissing girls, but a boy and girl about to kiss feeling weird about it. Just like the cover of National Geographic shows all the other genders except the female. Well, now Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak, it turns out, visited Obama 22 times. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah. And, of course, it's coming out he visited his Democrat counterparts in the Senate more times than he visited just one counterpart in the Armed Services Committee, more than he visited then Senator Jeff Sessions. But nobody cares about that because the media is not going to talk about it, the controlled corporate press. But here it is. Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak appeared as Obama's White House visitor at least 22 times. Isn't that just special? Then, of course, there's flashback. Chuck Schumer meets with Putin in New York City. The great Jim Hoft over at Great Gateway Pundit. And then Russian Ambassador Kislyak attended Trump congressional speech Tuesday, but sat with Democrats before it broke on Wednesday and Thursday. There is Sue. He sat with all of them. Why? My gosh, they've all got to recuse themselves from any committees they're on. In fact, I want to identify all these Democrats that are in that photo. And I want movements, I want calls them to recuse themselves from committees that have anything to do with Russia. Period. Everyone he sat next to, everyone he talked to, I want the cameras reviewed, and I want, hell, let's just arrest them all. They're all Russian spies. Oh, Trump on dim Sessions hate fest. He calls it a witch hunt. They lost the election, and now they've lost their grip on reality. Tucker Carlson even kind of grilled him. Yeah, Fox is out to get Trump. And then we've got more articles dealing with all of this that we're going to be breaking down coming up. And, you know, it's a big mistake by Sessions. He's recused himself, so now a top Democrat's going to run the Russia investigation. The only winning move is to not play, to not engage the globalists in a discussion of their false paradigm. They set the rules. They set up a cultural construct that breaks the social contract and is anti-human, eugenics-based, slavery-based, technocracy-based throughout its entire system. And that's the big secret. The globalists got the best and brightest to join them in the last 60, 70 years in the West to construct the planetary world government they claimed would be a utopia to empower humanity. But in the last decade, they've gone public and been very arrogant that the decision's been made to wipe out humanity and merge with machines and become gods. An extreme power trip. And that some nightmare battle of the gods scenario has to take place first before the elite can transcend. There's a big article I mentioned yesterday out of the New Yorker magazine, and it ties in with several other big reports. We're going to be getting to one out of Bloomberg. Where AI scientists gather to plot doomsday scenarios and solutions as the so-called elites themselves scurry away and begin living generally more than half the year already out of Europe, out of the United States, out of Australia, out of Asia. And again, places like Kauai, Hawaii, and of course, Tasmania, off the coast of Australia, and of course, New Zealand. And I told people about this a long time ago. Now it's in Bloomberg. Yesterday, it's in New Yorker magazine. They are throwing it in your face. It's very, very serious. They've been preparing a worldwide economic collapse and then organized crises they believe would bring them absolute control over the nation states and individuals. They will then accelerate even more crises in the next wave, which will be used to reduce population even more. I've always said they'll have a primer bioweapon that kills 10 to 50 million people. Gates came out last week and said it'll be about 30 million in the next pandemic. That will then train us to all live under a medical tyranny. They've now announced a world government to be run to, quote, counter the medical tyranny they're rolling out. And then they will continue to just tighten the noose as each successive crisis becomes more intense and larger. And then the mega deaths will go from the millions into the billions. A mega death is 1 million or larger. What is a billion deaths? We should search that term. I don't know. What is the term for a billion deaths?
Giga-death.
Giga-death. So you got mega-death, you've got giga-death. So they kill 7 million of us. Now, Ted Turner says he only wants to kill 80%. So that means there'd be hundreds of millions left, which I think is quite gracious of him. And, of course, as the culling takes place in the next few decades, you'll be able to grovel to them properly and show them that you've been subservient. Perhaps you'll be allowed to, live or be given some of the cures for the diseases they've been dumping out and pouring out upon us. By the way, their whole program is in great crisis. It's being blocked. Across the world, people in their own system are aware of the plan, and they're speaking out against it and saying no. The globalist response has been to just be more public about their plan and kind of publicly inoculate everyone psychologically to hide it in plain view and go, okay, well, humans are ugly and fallen and bad. There are too many of us. So if you don't merge the machines, we'll just step on you. You'll be obsolete. Elon Musk 2 weeks ago. And they've all made the same statement. Ray Kurzweil, all of them. All of them. All of them. Bill Joy, the list goes on and on. Bill Gates, all of them. David Rockefeller. And look at the Clintons. Look at their attitude towards humanity. A total elitism, a hardness, a selfishness, a hate to steal $2 billion from the Haitians, give them less than 4% of the money raised, keep it for yourself, and be praised as being liberal. It's like Bono. He was caught giving less than 1% to African aid when he was raising billions a year for it. So he upped it to 1.8. 1.8. Imagine you run a charity for starving kids and you keep 98.2%. But as long as you kind of wear a scarf around your neck and kind of walk like you're liberal and non-threatening and act beta and wear, red tinted sunglasses and talk real soft and get awards, then it's okay. But they're raving snakes. They are ravenous wolves. They are just foaming at the mouth with absolutely total greed and a satanic spirit towards humanity. Completely and absolutely turned over to it. And their actions are pure hate. So they tell us that speak out against them with anger that we're the hateful ones. No, we're the people who are informed and who are horrified to know we're right, to have stacks of documents, you know, rooms of documents, rooms of videotape, rooms of books with all of you bragging to yourselves how beautiful and powerful and perfect you are and how profane and ugly and fallen we are and how you can't wait to live in a utopia of the Elysium fields once we've all been exterminated. And in comes Donald Trump that believes in workers, that believes in people, and says there is advanced technology that has not been rolled out to the public. We're going to start curing cancer, curing disease, curing death. We're going to walk on foreign planets. We're going to break the secrets of the universe. He already knew before as a billionaire and a smart guy dialed in. Plus, he at least write books about this, that there's a breakaway civilization now in its middle stages. I mean, they're far along here. But once they break away, it's going to be really hard to deal with them. They know there's a coming war between the breakaway civilization and us. Not just left here on Earth. That's a metaphor, the movie Elysium. Forget first world, old world, third world. Forget those fights. This is globalists playing us all off against each other with high-tech, highly controlled, literal bubble cities they're already announcing and designing and rolling out. Peter Thiel, you name it. Floating cities to get away from us. Underground mountain redoubts. And corporate city-states that are tax-exempt above the law, where all the wealth is piled up and kept, where they announce that they're exempt from the vassal governments they've set up for 99% of the Earth's mass, 99% of the Earth's surface, which oppress us, ship the resources, the ideas, the culture, the money, but it's all digital, to them in their central combines. And I said 20 years ago they're going to move back to nation states. I could see the model, or city-states, because I could understand what feudalism already was. So they said they wanted feudalism. Well, I said that's the city-state. It's a de-evolution for us, an advanced, accelerated evolution for them. And I don't mean that in the sense of evolution came from a monkey fish frog or a man bear pig. I mean evolution of technology, automobiles, genetic engineering, you know, advancement. And this is their plan. And imagine reading books where they were admitting this 20 years ago and wanting to warn people. And now it's not just academic books. It is public. It is not just in the pop culture. It is not just in the popular science. It is in the movies and the culture, and they are just readying us to adapt and to accept the new reality, because that's the secret that the social engineers know about humans. If you're not conscious of the fact that you're artificially having your environment manipulated and that you're artificially being bent and twisted in a different direction, you will automatically begin to serve that and begin to love that, and you will adapt into the new, smaller, cramped, oppressive system that you've been put into. But if you demand more from yourself and from your neighbors and from your culture and from your children and from your spouse and from your institutions, and you want to rise humanity in a real direction, then, no, it's fine, it's fine. I was going to tell them to skip the break, but I'm not going to now because I want to go to some special reports, but we'll go ahead and skip it. It's just what you're hearing is not my opinion, not baloney, not garbage, but the reality of what they're building and what they've created. And I'm going to explain it after I play this report from the president, his weekly address. And then I'm going to get into the sad situation with Senator Sessions now, Attorney General Sessions, and just how ridiculous all this is and where this is going next, and how the Republican establishment with the Democrats and the media are all ganged up as a trifecta to try to block Trump and his trifecta of the executive, the legislative, the judicial, and the American people. And so that's really the battle lines. And I should just talk about what's really happened here and then also the cost. But let's go to the president's weekly address. And then we will come back and get into the situation with Sessions. But it's always important to set the table so folks know exactly what we're facing. I'm Alex Jones, and this is the InfoWar. Here's the president.
My fellow Americans, I'm joining you today from the deck of what will be our nation's newest aircraft carrier, the soon-to-be commissioned Gerald R. Ford. And as you can see, I'm wearing a jacket and a hat that they just gave me. Not really used to it, but it feels awfully good. I'm very proud of it, actually. Our carriers are the centerpiece of American military might, projecting power and our totally unparalleled strength at sea. This beautiful new warship represents the future of naval aviation, and she will serve as a cornerstone of our national defense for decades and decades to come. A famous aviator once wrote that to build a truly great ship, we shouldn't begin by gathering wood, cutting boards, or distributing work, but instead by awakening within the people a desire for the vast and endless sea. So true. In the same way, we must continue to renew the American spirit in order to rebuild our country, and rebuild it we will. On Tuesday, before a joint session to Congress, I laid out a version, I hope you all watched, for how to accomplish that national rebuilding. My vision includes the elimination of the defense sequester, which has imposed steep cuts on our military. We must give our sailors, soldiers, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen the tools, equipment, resources, and training they need to get the job done and get it done right, especially in these very dangerous times. The active duty Army has been reduced by more than 85,000 men since 2009, and we have over 18,000 fewer active duty Marines. Air Force, it's the smallest it's been since 1947, and their planes are, on average, nearly 30 years old, if you can believe that. Our Navy's fleet is the smallest it's been since World War I, and that's a long time ago. Frontline Navy and Marine strike fighter aircraft are more likely to be down for maintenance than to be in the sky. We cannot afford to continue down this path. My budget will give America's armed forces the resources they need to achieve full and total military preparedness to meet any and all global challenges. And meet them we will. Investing in the military means investing in peace, because the best way to prevent war, as George Washington said, is to be prepared for it. Most importantly, an investment in the military is an investment in the incredible men and women who serve our country in uniform. They are the best of us. They are the greatest force for peace and justice the world has ever known, and we will support them every single step of the way. These are truly exciting times. Amazing opportunities are unfolding before us to strengthen our military, to reboot our economy, and to bring back our jobs. If we all work together and put our country first, then anything is possible. Let us seize this moment and make the most of this incredible opportunity for national renewal. May God bless the men and women of our military, and may God bless the United States of America, the country we love.
Trump knows that the globalists have decided to build a world based on slavery, a world based on oppression, and a world based on believing that humanity's trash and is basically needs to be thrown out, burned up. And he's aware of the globalist model, and so is Stephen Bannon. I know that for a fact. And so is Senator Jeff Sessions, and they're all making a real attempt to really build a world based on the common person and based on common dreams and open free societies. And that's why every criminal element, every slimy group, every mercenary organization, every dishonorable belief system is against Trump. because Trump is for the people. Trump is real. And that's why I am so committed to defending the 45th president of the United States, is because he stands for everything we stand for: sovereignty, family values, the right to keep and bear arms, building a world for people, not letting special interests come in and pick the winners. And that's why the special interests and the Goldman Sachs and the JP Morgans and the corrupt Catholic Church and the Communist Chinese and the Saudi Arabians and the EU bureaucrats, they all absolutely hate him, and they've all combined forces globally, but also here in the United States, with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party leadership, to come out and to take the completely normal activity of the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee in the Senate to routinely meet with foreign ambassadors, the head Russian ambassador to the United States, and to turn that into some type of dirty thing, when Al Franken in the confirmation hearing clearly setting him up for the future, knowing he's a lawyer, knowing lawyers are obsessed with answering questions exactly as they're asked. It's the religion of lawyers. Franken had that written for him clearly by a lawyer. He's not a lawyer. He's a bad actor, a comedian. He's looking down at the question. He's going, yes, we've heard a lot in the media, this big story out about surrogates for the campaign, and you've been a surrogate, meeting with the Russians and getting directives from the Russians. And, well, sir, I am a surrogate with the campaign, and I've not met with the Russians about the campaign, and I've not seen that happen. They call that deceptive? If he'd have said, as a U.S. ranking senator on the Armed Services Committee, as the ranking Republican, have you met with the Russians? Well, absolutely. I've met with one of their top generals. I've met with their ambassador several times. Just this year, I've met with some of our generals, some of their military people at a base inspection I attended a few months ago. Yes, there's a whole list of that in my file. You can see my itinerary for the last few years posted at us.gov, Senate sessions. Boom, it's all right there. These are public meetings. These are completely above board. I looked it up. Chuck Schumer's met with the very same person, and we're trying to find photos of them together right now. All of them have. But they're going to say, well, I know we've met with him. He lied about meeting with him. And the Republican Party told Trump, and Pence told Trump, they said, just let us have Flynn, and then this will get him off your back. And before Trump could even get rid of him, Flynn just resigned and said, I'm not going to be part of this. And now they're going after Sessions. Doesn't matter if Sergei Kislyak sat with the Democrats during the speech and is a known handler of Democrats for decades. Doesn't matter. They'll try to blame a guy from Alabama who's as patriotic and Americana as basically John Wayne, because the scum hates real Americans.
No weapons of mass destruction were found.
Are you kidding me? Do you buy that? There were.
I was 5 and he was 6. We rode on horses made of sticks. He wore black and I wore white.
Come on, let's shoot.
He would always
Blair.
win the fight. Bang, bang. He shot me down. Bang, bang.
Hey, I need to get the brass to drop ramps. I got a wounded girl. We need to take the rest of mile. Oh, it's their fault for bringing their kids to a battle.
No network.
That's right. And when we've got presidents doing corrupt things and lying and getting our military into fraudulent wars, it doesn't mean we're against the military to speak out against it. It means we're for the country and for the military. And our military's been sent into these last few set of wars to destabilize the Middle East as part of a long-term plan to then bring in the Wahhabists and the Saudi Arabian jihadis and take over not just the Middle East, but much of Central Asia, much of the countries bordering Russia, much of Europe, and to then even colonize the UK. There's an incredible video that we've had to bleep that's up on Infowars.com in England. And I personally have experienced this with the radical Muslims that live there, where I'll be videotaping the entrance of a hotel that I'm going in to interview an MI6, agent that particular time, whistleblower. and there's some Muslims in their garb across the street. I mean, they look like they're about 2 inches tall from 100 yards away walking up the street. And before they even get close, they're screaming and cussing at me to turn my camera off and not to videotape them. Now, there's government cameras all over the place videotaping. And I noticed that the Brits all start bowing down and groveling to them, but they come over at my face and I start yelling back. I say, number one, you're in a public place. I'm videotaping this building as a cutaway shot. And I said, shut up, stop yelling at me. I've got a TV show. I'm getting a cutaway of the building, you know, so I can go in and say, I went to interview such and such. And it shows a cutaway of where I interviewed them. People like that. It's called making a film. I made 20-something of them. But the point was, I wasn't even videotaping them. And they came and got in my face. And that's the attitude when you run into the Muslims in France, in Germany, or in England. And this was their attitude 10 years ago. First time I went to England was 7/7. That was about 10 years ago. Been there many times since. And I just had Muslims all over coming out of their way to get in my face and say, shut up, because they didn't like seeing a Brit uppity. See, the Brits have already been given imperial conditioning to be submissive to the government, submissive to the crown, or they'd get killed. It was one of the most rambunctious, rebellious groups ever. In fact, the Romans could never conquer them. One of the few groups they couldn't. But hundreds of years of mind control and conditioning, they are very, very cowed. So are the American people. I'm not bashing people in England. I mean, that's where my name's Welsh. But the point is that they have fallen quite a bit. And there's a video, you know, since I mentioned it, let's just play it now. Let me go ahead and scroll back over so I can see it on InfoWars, Infowars.com. Yes, it's called You Look Like Pork, shock video. And this is the exact thing I've run into in England, and my crew ran into it in France last year when there were more terror attacks and bombings and truck attacks. People would come over 100 yards away and stomp up and say, you get out of this neighborhood, you get out of here, you turn your camera off. And guys in cars would start following. I mean, these are no-go zones.